I did it. I figured out how to make carnivore bread with just 5 ingredients. It doesn't taste foamy, doesn't taste eggy, it tastes like bread. And we are using the carnivore flour that I recently released. This carnivore recipe is original. You will not find this recipe anywhere else. However, my friend Cheryl Tomlinson helped me test this recipe and refine it. Once you've made your bread, do make sure you let it cool, and to store it you would wrap it and refrigerate it for about 3 days, or you can freeze up to 3 months, but do let it defrost naturally. Nutritional information and your shopping list is listed in the description box, and let's get into this recipe now. Start by preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 Celsius, and then grease and line a loaf pan and set that aside. Next we're going to melt butter and mayonnaise together, so add 3.5 tablespoons of butter to a bowl. We're just going to use 1 bowl in this recipe, and the butter equates to 50 grams if you prefer using grams. And next we're going to add about 1/2 cup of mayonnaise or 100 grams and microwave that for about 20 seconds until your butter is melted. And when that's melted, add 30 grams or 2 tablespoons of baking powder and give it a slight whisk. Just gonna mix that all together. And now we're going to add 4 eggs, one at a time. You'll notice that as you add each egg, the batter starts fluffing up. And whisk in between. Also, the other thing that happens is at the beginning your batter is quite lumpy with the mayonnaise and the butter mixing together, but as you add your eggs it just smooths out and actually looks a bit like mayonnaise. Whisk again. And lastly, 200 grams of the carnivore flour. If you haven't made your carnivore flour yet, click on this link now and you'll get the recipe. So 200 grams of carnivore flour, it equates to 2 cups Australian or 2.5 cups US. And lastly, 1 cup of water equating to 225 grams. Mix all together until you have one consistency and no lumps. You might have noticed that I've had my oven going, and you might have noticed the loaf. This is just me testing it with 30 grams of sweetener, and all the sweetener does is improve the taste. But I also wanted to test it in a standard loaf tin, and the bread is rising out of the pan. It looks so beautiful. It hasn't cracked. And this bread is not foamy. All right, dump your entire batter into your loaf pan. And then we bake this for exactly 50 minutes. Now you can opt to use your Pullman loaf lid if you like. I like to use it just for an even bake. But as you can see with my previous loaf, you don't need a lid. The crust won't brown. Another tip is if at the 50-minute mark, your bread still looks unbaked, it means that you have a different oven to mine, and you're probably going to need to double the bake time. Ta-da! Look at this bread. It is high, people. Okay, I'm going to let this cool in the pan, and then we're going to see how soft this bread is. Okay, the one in my standard loaf tin is pretty cool, so I'm going to remove it now. Soft, soft, soft bread. One thing I do note is that the baking paper and the pan has a little bit of liquid in it, but the bread underneath is completely dry. And now just cutting into the bread. So easy. Remember, the loaf I baked had a little bit, 30 grams of sweetener in it, so now I just want to taste if it made a big difference. Oh my God, it's delicious. This is the one made in the Pullman loaf. This is the difference between the two breads. I love a Pullman loaf for this reason alone. I just feel like the bread turns out better. And now I expect that it's going to turn out the same as the standard loaf bread, but let's take a look. And because I'm impatient, I didn't completely wait till my bread is cooled. As you can see, the steam rolling off it. But it is a testament that this loaf will not sink at all. Okay, with this loaf, I'm not sure if you recall, but I didn't add any sweetener just to keep it true carnivore. And now to taste. Perfectly fine. It doesn't taste of chicken, it doesn't taste of egg, it tastes like just bread. And that is verified by my recipe tester, if you like, Cheryl Tomlinson. Well, I hope you get to make this true carnivore bread that doesn't taste like foam, and you can kind of normalize your carnivore diet. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and be well.